we go. Special coverage here on SNY. Gary Apple back alongside Andy Martino inside Studio 41 here in New York City. Continuing coverage as this day has unfolded. Carlos Beltran no longer the manager of the New York Mets. We met with Carlos last night and again this morning and agreed to mutually part ways. This was not an easy decision considering the circumstances.
But it was a leap for the Mets to hire him before this scandal. I believe that he had the potential to be a great manager, and other people that know him believe that too. But it was a risk, and now looking forward, it will be a risk with the scandal attached.
The only thing prominent about it is that it's the name of a player on the 2017 Houston Astros. Beltran was the only name we heard. That's what's prominent about it. It wasn't the specificity of it. It wasn't the wording. It was just the fact that his name was in the report that has led us here.
I'm disappointed that that's the attack that the organization felt they had to take. I really felt from almost all along that, with the players having a level of immunity, that what they said would not be held against them. In this case, I feel like it has been.
In talking to Carlos, it was clear how challenging it was going to be for him to effectively manage the team going forward. Following this decision, we will now begin to discuss who will be our next manager.
There are some who said that he could have come out, apologized, admitted to whatever wrongdoings there was, and that way the Mets wouldn't be starting from scratch here. Do you think that would have been a better course of action for them?
Yeah, we just talked to Todd Zeal about this same thing.
It was going to be really challenging for Carlos to go into this without having this feeling that he's got 2 strikes against him already walking into a new job.
He could have spoken to the media, answered questions, spoke to his actions. Instead, that didn't happen. Instead, you have a guy apologizing, a guy who never got to manage a game with the New York Mets, and he basically worked with Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred to come together and figure all of this out. So he participated in the investigation, and now he's no longer the manager.
We didn't know when the commissioner's report was going to come out. It's not like the commissioner's office has to call me and tell me, hey, this report is coming out. So we got the report the same time anybody else did. And what we were asked to do is ask Carlos to participate in the investigation, which we did. And we were asked to make sure that Carlos talked to the commissioner's office in a truthful way, which we asked him to do, and we believe he did.
I would have tried to, sync up everything and make sure that Carlos wasn't omitting anything. He doesn't have to lie, but if he omitted some details and wasn't necessarily forthcoming, that's where it might have been difficult. And I understand that's a gray area.
When you look at this situation as a whole, there was a path for the Mets to keep Carlos Beltran, and the one aspect of this that we do not know is whether or not Carlos Beltran lied to the Mets. If he lied to the Mets at any point, then this makes even more sense than it may make otherwise.
A lot of what was in that report, the commissioner's report, came from Beltran's testimony. They did almost 70 interviews, so there was more in there, but Beltran laid it out, what he did. And what he did, by the way, was help the Astros in a historic electronic cheating scandal, one of the worst scandals the game has ever known.
The resignation by Beltran should not be seen as an admission of guilt. And in an age of echo chambers, social media, that's the way people are going to see it. It's guilty, guilty. If he wouldn't have resigned if he wasn't guilty. I don't see it as that. As these guys over here just talked about, he was doing what was best for himself and the team.
We both agreed that it was going to be incredibly challenging and incredibly difficult to do the job in the way in which he intended and the way in which he could utilize the best of his abilities.
It feels kind of like the Mets and the Red Sox are in the same position, even though the Mets didn't benefit in any way from any of this.
Well, that's at least the Red Sox and the Astros have a championship to show for all this nonsense. The Mets are just victims, and their fans are just victims, and neither the Mets nor their fans deserve to be in this terrible position they're in.